And the theorist we will be covering today is Dr. Alan Wolfelt.
And the members of Group 8 are Clarissa, Choon, and me, Melinda.
We have conducted an interview with Dr. Wolfelt on his personal life. He was kind enough to answer all the questions we had for him. Dr. Alan Wolfelt was born in New York, but he grew up in Indiana. In his childhood years, he was already interested in life and death, and started thinking about their natures. Dr. Wolfelt's parents were excellent models of caring for others during his childhood, which made a big impact in his later accomplishments with caring for the bereaved individuals. He worked as a paperboy and a landscaper in a cemetery as a teenager. He attended Ball State University and earned his bachelor's, master's, and doctorate degrees in psychology. Dr. Wolfelt is married to Susan, who is working as a family doctor. They have 3 children. Dr. Wolfelt's biggest influence in his life was Dr. Dimmick. He was Wolfelt's professor during his college career. Dr. Dimmick encouraged him to write and speak in his early years of college education. He founded the Center for Loss and Life Transition in 1983, which assists the mourners to go through the grieving process. Wolfelt focuses on contributing to the body of knowledge related to death education and counseling, while mentoring the students into this profession with teaching and training. He also emphasizes the value of meaningful funerals. By actively being involved in his career, Wolfelt finds a sense of meaning and purpose in helping others who are going through the process of grief and loss. Number 1, being present to another's pain. It is not about taking away the pain. Number 2, going to the wilderness of the soul with another human being. It is not about thinking you are responsible for finding the way out. Number 3, honoring the spirit. It is not about focusing on the intellect. Number 4, listening with the heart. It is not about analyzing with the head.
Get over it.
Number 5, bearing witness to the struggles of others. It is not about judging or directing these struggles. Number 6. Walking alongside. It is not about leading. Number 7. Discovering the gifts of sacred silence. It is not about filling up every moment with words. Number 8. Being still. It is not about frantic movement forward. Number 9. Respecting disorder and confusion. It is not about imposing order and logic. Number 10. Learning from others. It is not about teaching them. Number 11. Compassionate curiosity. It is not about expertise.
This is how you do it. Stop crying, be strong, and get over it.
Wolfelt has written many books for caregivers, funeral directors, and people who have experienced loss. Many of these books are self-help style and have spaces for the reader to fill out information and put down their thoughts.
One particular book is called Creating Meaningful Funeral Ceremonies. This book is all the information you need to know about creating a funeral for your loved one. It goes in depth from the different types of funerals, the options you can have, what happens to your loved one's body, all the way down to what to expect during the arrangement conference. This book also talks about Wolfelt's 6 needs of mourning, which is important to discuss, even if it isn't in the main point of the book. You can imagine that someone reading this book has just lost someone and probably has some questions about the grieving process.
Creating Meaningful Funeral Ceremonies is a book that informs the recently bereaved. The first chapter is about making initial decisions. These steps should be followed in order to ease the journey of creating a ceremony. First step is to have a family meeting. You then choose the funeral home and the funeral director you'd like to work with. In the arrangement conference with your funeral director, you need to choose someone to lead the ceremony. Think about what kind of service you will have. there's a few different general service types: traditional, memorial, celebration of life, humanistic, committal, and home funeral service. Then you need to think about what will happen to your loved one's body. Will they be embalmed, which is the temporary preservation of the body so the body can be viewed. It could be cremated as well. The body is placed in a retort until the body ignites and burns down to create bone fragments. There are financial considerations as well. The average funeral costs $8,000. Consider what is affordable before the arrangement conference. Sometimes the things that make a funeral special are free. The second chapter is called Planning the Meaningful Funeral Ceremony. It goes into the actual elements of a funeral ceremony and the specifics it can hold. So the elements of funeral ceremonies are as follows. The visitation. It is a time for friends and family to support one another. The eulogy. This is also called remembrance. Can be delivered by the clergy or a family member. There's also memories that are important. Memory baskets or books can be used for guests to write down memories they have with their loved one. The procession is the funeral procession from the funeral service to the gravesite. It is a symbol of mutual support and public honoring of the death. The committal is the final opportunity to say goodbye. And the reception. This allows the family to tell stories about the person, and it can be held at home or at a restaurant. The last chapter is called Understanding Grief. At the beginning of the first chapter, Wolfelt's 6 needs of mourning were discussed. This chapter goes a little more in depth. What you may feel. You may be shocked, dazed and stunned. You may have stomach pains or dizziness, crying or laughing uncontrollably. Anxiety, the fear that others may die too. You may feel anger, hate, blame, terror, rage. All these feelings are normal with grief. You may feel sadness or guilt. You may think, if only I had. Help yourself heal. Do not grieve without mourning. Grief is not a disease, but a healthy process of coping. You may reach out for help. Friends and family are the core of the support system. Clergy can help by giving an empathetic shoulder to cry on. And support groups are also great in helping connect people who are going through the same thing as you are. These 6 needs are 1, to acknowledge the reality of the death. 2, embrace the pain of the loss. 3, to remember the person who died. 4, develop a new self-identity. 5, search for meaning. And 6, continue to receive support from others. Wolfelt also has a big outreach in his community. He created the Center for Loss and Life Transition, which is located in Fort Collins, Colorado. This center was created for people who need help through the grieving process. The center also has educational classes for caregivers, funeral directors, and anyone else who works closely with the bereaved. These seminars teach the grieving process, help relate to the bereaved, and raise awareness about death and dying. These seminars are organized to focus on specific topics such as comprehensive bereavement skills training, counseling skills, and creating meaningful funeral ceremonies.
Oh, hello there. So, according to Dr. Wolfelt, grief is our internal response to loss, and mourning is grief gone public. Dr. Alan Wolfelt has developed multiple theories on helping families through the grieving process, such as the hierarchy of the purposes of funerals, the 6 needs of mourning, Dr. Wolfelt's tenets of companioning the bereaved, and the elements of a meaningful funeral, to name a few. I'd like to go over Wolfelt's hierarchy of the purposes of funerals. Reality. When a loved one dies, we are faced with the task to acknowledge the death has occurred. The funeral helps us accept the finality of death. At first, we accept it with our head, and only over time do we come to accept it with our hearts. Recall. Funerals help us convert the presence of a loved one to that of a memory, and during the funeral, grievers come together to share those memories. Support. Funerals are social gatherings that bring together the people who love the deceased, and they benefit from receiving support from one another. Although funerals are in remembrance of the person who died, they are meant to benefit the living. Expression. So many thoughts and feelings fill our mind and heart when someone we love dies. These thoughts and feelings are described as grief. Grievers need to express their grief by crying, talking to others, sharing memories, and taking part of the funeral service. Mourning is grief communicated outward. Grievers should be encouraged to express their feelings and not be apologetic. When an individual does not mourn, the sadness can feel unbearable and the emotions can fester inside. Mourning helps grievers begin to heal. Meaning. We try to start searching for meaning in the decedent's life and wonder if they had a good life, and the funeral helps us find the answers we seek. Transcendence. Funerals help us remember what is truly important in life and how we want to spend our precious time while we are still on this earth. Dr. Alan Wolfelt provides teachings and material to funeral professionals to inform, educate, and help honor grieving family needs. A funeral professional can better guide families through the death of a loved one from reading Dr. Wolfelt's textbooks and help the individual understand the importance of mourning and funeral services. Mourning in our culture is not easy, and it is seen as unnecessary, weak, and shameful. Society tells the grievers to avoid being hurt and to be strong, but grief is a healthy process. An individual who suffers from the death of a loved one must go through the grief process in order to have a renewed sense of meaning and purpose in the life. Dr. Wolfelt feels that a life well lived is worth honoring. Funeral services are meant for grievers to come together and acknowledge a new reality without a loved one. A funeral service is not a closure, but a new beginning.
Thanks, Dr.